Look, I think most people are more afraid of dementia, a disease that slowly takes your memory away until, in a way, you're no longer yourself, than they are of death. Death, honestly, is part of life.
Yeah.
Any of us can face it at any time, and once you're gone, the problem isn't yours anymore. It's the people you leave behind who carry it. But the illnesses that gradually break down cognition of your thinking, your reasoning, your intelligence, So if we don't want to go through something like that, what do we have to do?
Yeah.
First, take care of the body.
Yeah.
Because as physical health wears down, the brain is going to suffer too. If you have high blood pressure and you don't manage it, if your diabetes is poorly controlled, if you live a sedentary life, if you have cardiovascular problems, this isn't something to worry about only when you get older. You have to take care of it all along. Your brain needs stimulation to function. Sometimes people say it's like lifting weights. With weight training, you exercise. What the brain does is build new connections. And those new connections are what we call cognitive reserve. The more information and mental flexibility you have, the easier it is to deal with reality. For example, I put a glass on the table. Someone with well-developed thinking looks at that glass and says, this can hold water. It can hold wine. It can be something I use to keep my toothbrush. That kind of broad thinking helps you understand the world better than someone who looks at the glass and says, no, it's just for water. And that applies to everything. You need intellectual exercise from early on, learning to understand the world in a deeper, more complex way. How do you do that? By feeding the brain stimulation. A child, from the day they're born, gets constant input and builds their neural network. And we need to keep doing the same thing as time goes by. There was an old idea, common up until the 1950s, that as we age, we just lose neurons. They die off and we gradually become less sharp. That's not really true. What matters most is the connections between neurons. It's sometimes even more than the number of neurons. The more connections you build, the better your brain functions.
Yeah.
And we know the brain can keep forming connections for life, as long as you give it the right stimulation. What kind? There are many, but especially intellectual stimulation. For example, a lot of studies show that one of the strongest connection builders in the brain is reading. Right, books. Think about it. You're reading a novel set in Budapest. You've never been to Budapest, but you start to picture the city. You start to understand how it works. Reading activates your visual centers. You build your own Budapest in your mind. You connect with the people being described. You start to know them. Your inner world becomes richer as you read. Now compare that to television. You sit and watch images created by someone else, not by you. It's what we'd call passive learning. It can be interesting, sure, but it doesn't stimulate the brain the same way reading does. And in general, learning a new language is a powerful stimulus too. Think of how many connections your brain has to activate to understand a word in another language, how words are organized, how grammar works, how the structure is different. Those kinds of mental workouts matter. Any mental workout matters. A lot of people, as they get older, start resisting new things. They hear new music younger people like and say, oh, please, that's not music. They don't want to read the news because it brings unfamiliar topics or uncomfortable updates. But that attitude shrinks your mental range. It keeps new connections from forming. If they don't stay open, it's important to stay open to newness, to things that challenge you. Even if it feels hard to keep up, the more new things you learn, the more connections you create. Nutrition helps too. The brain can't be missing key nutrients. For example, a B12 deficiency can cause serious cognitive problems, even symptoms that look like dementia. Your diet should be balanced with a strong emphasis on plant-based foods, vegetables, salads, legumes, fruit, and so on, and physical activity. So if you can find balance between movement, nutrition, and intellectual stimulation, especially reading ed, you're on the right track. You're building cognitive reserve, which becomes incredibly useful as you age. And that helps you keep your mind working well for longer. If this helped you, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.